Hey, you guys. This is already a great conversation about the house on Mango Street. I skimmed through all of your original replies from this past week, and I was impressed by the ways that you were making connections to Russell's text and to the course outcomes in general. I did not expect you to break each outcome out and respond to every single one. So note taken for next quarter. I'll make an adjustment because just like a blurb would have been fine with whatever came to mind. So you guys, a lot of you went above and beyond, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I want to point out some things. The dialogue without quotations, you're so right that might be new for some of you guys as readers, and I loved your positive response to that. One thing that I noticed as I finished up the book again was just how that style illuminates the fact that it really doesn't matter who's saying what, it matters what is being said. And it also picks up speed. I think you'll notice that as you keep reading. Something harkening back to chapter 4 of Russell's text that I want to point out is that this is an episodic plot. It consists of a series of chapters, each of which acts as a dramatic story in itself. In courses in the past, I've pulled out Bums in the Attic or The House on Mango Street or the one about Esperanza's name, and I've included just that little 2-page or 4-page chapter. And that's a really cool feature of working with a book like this, is you don't always need the whole book, but the whole book presents something really special because the episodes, I'm quoting from Russell, are tied together by a common set of characters, setting, and theme, which are usually brought to a satisfying closure at the end. This book wraps around entirely, first chapter to ending chapter. And one of the things that I really want you to edit your original post to include is, what do you think The House on Mango Street is about? If you remember what do you think the theme is? What do you think the purpose is? If you remember from chapter 4 as well, Russell says that there's not one, there are many. And so I hope you'll actually consider the complexity. What are the multiple things that are happening here? Furthermore, I want you to edit your original post to make some connections. You can delete things too from your original post. If you responded to those course learning outcomes and just kind of wrote about the outcomes, copy and paste that into a document elsewhere so that you don't destroy writing and thinking that you did. But just keep the stuff that's relevant to The House on Mango Street, because I want this discussion to be about the book. And you're going to be reading this week, Chapter 9, Realistic Fiction, from Russell's text, page 251 through I should have mapped this out, 273. And there are a few things I just want to talk through. So in this chapter, Russell says that realistic fiction can make reality seem rosier or darker than it actually is. It's probably unfair for us to claim that entirely, but I think you're probably picking up on the fact that this text gets darker as we go. Also, I'll just call it out. This is contemporary realism as opposed to historical realism. So it's written in the time period that it represents. But it does set us outside of based on your guys' bios, of our own cultural context, whether that be the culture of her actual identity, of her heritage, or where she lives, which is in Chicago. Obviously, it is bordering on new realism, which you'll read in Russell's text is defined by raw emotion, franker language, and bolder ideas. This is tempered by her youth and naivete and innocence, which is eroding as the chapters go on, making this you already probably said this, a lot of you did in the discussion, a coming of age. Is it, and this is a question I kind of want you to ponder and potentially answer in your edit to your original post, is it a problem novel? What is the problem? A problem novel sort of creates tension in readers or adults who might share this book with the youth. And that is that we want to preserve the innocence of the reader, but we also want to be honest about reality. And that's a tension and an art form. And I do hope that you will not necessarily come out of if you have a strong feeling about that, fine, go ahead and share it. I want you to feel like you can be honest and explore your ideas in this space. But my personal hope is that you'll come out with mixed feelings. And I think that good writing produces that in us, where we're like, gosh, I can see where this has so much merit because of this, but it feels uncomfortable because of this. I'll be honest, and maybe I just say this about all literature because now I'm remembering that I said it about Charlotte's Web, but this book makes me sad. I feel like crushed and inspired at the same time, and I feel like it's a remarkable work of art. I'm not going to hide that. But I read some dripping with hatred and contempt reviews of the book, and like especially parents saying, I can't believe this book was recommended for children who are the age of my children, and this piece of work is garbage and I'm going to burn it. Anyway, so I want you to wrestle with that. Also, in a coming-of-age text, the protagonist, quoting Russell, has learned something about him or herself, about people, and about the world. What has Esperanza learned? And finally, Russell's chapter breaks into all these like subcategories of realistic fiction, or these elements of realistic fiction: family relationships, friendship, personal growth and development, especially sexuality, social issues, adventure and survival, death and dying, mysteries and puzzlers, sports and animals. A lot of these subcategories are very relevant to The House on Mango Street. I was reading through, and at the end of each chapter or episode, I was writing family, friendship, sexuality. I was labeling them like, yeah, check, check, check.